let's begin. Good evening, everyone. I'm Mayor Tanky, and welcome to the IDA GICLIC board meeting. Today is March 23rd, Tuesday, 2021, and the meeting is being held via Microsoft Teams, and it will be recorded. It is being recorded as we speak. So let us officially call the meeting to order at 6:35 p.m. And will the secretary please call the roll?
Ian Pusparica.
Here.
Dave Jimenez.
Here.
John Tata.
I am here.
Joe Giuino.
Here.
Jim Capiello.
I'm here.
Vice
Hey,
Chairman
Jim, how are you?
Hartley.
Good.
Vincent. Is Vincent with us?
Yeah, he's here. He's here somewhere.
Here.
And Chairman
Be muted.
Tanky. Chairman Tanky.
Yes, I am here. Okay, so I should have held off on my hello to Jim for another minute. I apologize. Okay. Will the secretary report on the notice of meeting, please?
The notice of meeting was served in accordance with the IDA and the LEAC bylaws and the executive order 202.87.
Thank you. I make a motion to approve the minutes of January 12th, 2021 of the IDA and the GICLIC meeting. May I have a second for that?
Seconded by Vincent Hartley.
That's Vice Chairman Hartley, seconded. Will you please poll the count of the board, please?
Ian Pusparica.
Aye.
Dave Jimenez.
Aye.
John Tata.
Aye.
Joe Giuino.
Aye.
Jim Capiello.
Aye.
Vice Chairman Hartley.
I am.
And Chairman Tanky.
Aye. All right, so we have a few things on tonight, but the executive director report will Ann please give us an update on the executive director's report to the agency members?
I'm going to keep this very brief because I see that we are already running over. I did send an update regarding the New York State audit out to the board members earlier today, so keep a lookout for that in the coming days. And we will also be holding a series of special meetings and meetings, expected in the months of April and May. So just keep a lookout for those as Camille starts scheduling them. We do have a number of projects that are going to be coming to our attention in the coming weeks.
Very good. Okay, with us tonight, we have Margot Zoldesi, who is our Chief Financial Officer, and she is going to provide the members with a financial report, which is basically the year-ending report, correct, Ann, for 2020?
Correct.
Yeah. Okay, so if you could do that, I would appreciate it. Margot, it's all yours.
Sure. Good evening, everyone. I'd actually like to start off with GICLIC, if you wouldn't mind going to that set of financials. And on page 9, I'd briefly like to review the statement of revenue, expenses, and changes in net position. It's pretty comparative to last year. We received admin fees from both the Regency and Tiegerman. So that was the operating revenue of 2000. The operating expenses are also comparative to 2019. That would have been an admin fee of 2000 paid to the IDA in addition to the annual audit fees. So that adds up to 4,750. Again, this is comparable to the prior year. So if you wouldn't mind, I'd like to jump over to the IDA if there are no questions on GICLIC.
Does anyone have any questions on GICLIC? Okay. Yeah, go ahead, Margot.
Yeah, sure. If you wouldn't mind going to the IDA financials, I'll start off with the statement of revenue, expenses, and changes in net position. That would be page 30. The admin revenue, and I'm just comparing what we received versus the budget for 2020. So the admin fee revenue was 170,000 versus 183 actual. Interest 9,000 versus 5,000, and revenues from developers 450 versus 320. So the admin fee is what we receive on an annual basis from our projects, and whatever new origination admin fees we receive. So that's pretty much in line with the budget. The interest received, there was a change in the market rates during the current year. That would be the change in that. And the larger item here, the revenues from developers, 450,000 versus 320,000. That would strictly be, I guess, escrow invoices paid on behalf of the IDA projects. And again, the revenues would be offset by, if you take a look under professional fees, lower in the page, legal fees, escrow, or engineering, that would be offset by those two items. And again, please feel free to stop me if you have any questions. So the
Quick
one
question.
item. Mhm.
Quick question while we're looking at that professional fees. It looks like we had budgeted for 1,500 on engineering consultants, and yet we're at almost 28,000 on the actuals. Is there, why was it such a big difference?
Those were, let's see, there were fees paid for economic impact studies
Oh, okay, yeah,
that were done.
yep.
Okay.
Yeah, I remember we hired some consultants to do some work for us. So yeah, I see that $1,500 probably wouldn't cover much of that. So yeah, I see. Okay.
Okay,
And Mr. Chairman, all those fees are paid for by the applicants.
Right.
So Margaret can explain the accounting, but it doesn't, virtually none of those come out of the pocket, if you will, of the IDA.
Of the IDA.
There's either an escrow.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Right,
Yeah,
so
so
if we
Millen,
if we go over a particular line on the developer escrow, or if we come in under budget on the developer escrow, it really could just be a case of having to do more impact studies or more reports for certain projects, and perhaps we didn't spend as much in legal or other fees on other projects where the developer pays. So it's not an actual reflection of our revenue coming in, that was budgeted for in regard to our IDA fees and administrative fees that we collect on the projects.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah, this is Joe. I have one question though. It seems odd that, so we take it in. Why don't we just give the invoices to the developer instead of having to take it into our account and then give it back out? Why don't we just hand it over to them to pay?
Joe, we can, and again, I defer to Margot for the accounting. Typically, we want the developer to pay the IDA. So it's the IDA retaining these consultants. It is thought to be very important to make sure that the consultant knows that they are our consultant, as opposed to getting paid
I'm not
by
talking
the
about,
developer.
Yeah, Millen, I don't mean the legal part of it. I mean the invoice part of it. I mean, we certainly, so you're saying we have to take it in because it's a third party, even though they're paying us to pay them. I'm just trying to see if there's a way to eliminate that middle
Step.
action. And if it's not, then no big deal. We move on.
Yeah. Joe, my response is we do not have to do it this way. And, I believe that you and I in our careers together have done it either way. I think this IDA has, at least for, my memory, done it this way, meaning, let's say there's an SVS report for $5,000. We will say to the developer, we want you to deposit $5,000. And then when Margot says we have the $5,000, then we will retain SVS, and not before then. It is certainly, from a legal perspective, I'm okay with cutting out the middleman, if you will, Margot, or the IDA in general, and just telling the developer to, or getting an invoice from, I'm using SVS, getting an invoice from SVS and giving it to the developer. But if we get the check, then we know when it's been paid. Otherwise, we're sort of out of the loop is one reason to do it this way. And the second is sort of the appearance. We want to make sure that the consultant knows that they work for us and not for the developer. But no legal reason that we can't do it directly.
Or whatever they
Also have to check
standard accounting.
the state laws. You know, the state may require you to do it that way because there's a whole bunch
Millen just said there's no legal reason.
But you know
Yeah,
what?
yeah,
We like to review those invoices, and it just keeps us on top of what's going on with all the particular projects. And there's even times where we'll review the invoices and say, you know what, we haven't received that deliverable yet, or we want to make sure that the scope of work is being done the way that we discussed. So it's a way of us keeping an eye on certain things. And given the size of our IDA, it's small, we're able to do that. For a bigger IDA, it may not be possible.
One of the reasons I can see as to doing it the way that we do it is what Millen had said earlier. He said, we hire the consultants. Okay, if we don't know the money is there and we go ahead and hire them, how are we going to pay them? How are they going to get paid? Okay, you don't know, then there's no money there to cover the cost. Once we receive the money, we know that that money is there. We hire the consultant and that money's there to pay them. So I can see that there's a benefit on that, in that respect, to doing it the way we're doing it.
I suspect that in the 100 projects I've ever done, if I did it that way, no one would ever have not paid. But
Yeah. Oh, all right.
we can move on.
You're probably right, Joe, but yeah, let's go ahead, Margot.
Okay, sure. Getting down to the expense line item of salaries and benefits, there was an increase over the budget, the 212 for just salaries versus 120. So the total 288 versus 187. Added that the pure salaries amount was in line with the budget, but we do have accrual entries both for OPEB and pension, which accounted for 94,000 of the entry being booked. So again, these are sort of accrual or deferral entries that impacted that line item. There are also notes in the financials explaining the allocation for both pension and health benefits. And keep in mind, they are allocated between the CDA, the IDA, and Section 8, according to the actuarial valuations.
Okay.
Okay, if you wouldn't mind going to the balance sheet.
What page, Margot?
That would be page, let me just confirm that. That would be page 15.
Okay.
And again, I just want to highlight some of the major differences or changes from 2020 to 2019. And again, if you have any questions, please feel free to stop me. The cash balance, the 96 versus 242 for 2019, that's pretty much a reflection of whatever admin fees we received, plus monies on escrow that are there and have to be paid out. So that's sort of a timing issue with the escrow invoices. The investment account is pretty much comparable to the prior year. The AR balance is indicative of what we're owed in order to pay the escrow invoices. So at year end, it was the 200,000 versus 60,000 in 2019. Again, this would be a timing issue as to when we receive the escrow payments, so we could go ahead and pay the invoices as the offset. Land held for resale, that's the same thing. Getting to the deferred outflows of resources, we have some changes there for pensions and other post-employment benefits. Again, this is based upon the actual aerial valuation by New York State and local retirement system, and also the health benefits. So those are some major changes in the notes to the financials. There is a calculation explaining the allocation and how these numbers were derived.
Quick question on the receivable for 2020. Is that a calendar year receivable or is that a rollover from 19?
That would be a calendar year. We did have a balance at the beginning of the year, but most of that would be for 2020.
Okay.
Okay, now if nobody has any further questions on that, I'd like to move over to the IDA pilots.
Okay.
The detail for the pilot information, again, it's listed in Paris, and it's also listed in the financial statements. So the pilot information is listed on it starts on page 34. So for the Regency, Avalon Bay, Glen Cove Storage, the movie theater, Fair Housing, 50 Glen Partners, Garvey's Point, Samuel Pearson Village Square, we're listing the pilot payments, which were the taxes paid, versus the exemption amounts. For 2020, we also list the full-time equivalents. So again, these are listed in the financials and also listed in Paris, which are due at the end of March. So that should be input by the due date. So does anybody have any questions regarding the pilot payments or the exemptions?
Are these all of them? These are all the ones that we're currently funding or have control on? Are these? Margot,
Yes.
Are these all of them? Okay.
Yeah, I do have one. Maybe more direct to Ann on that. On one of them, it says the regional estimate of jobs to be created in Avalon is higher than what they actually have. Is that something we've noted and took and brought to their attention, or just something we've intentionally ignored in the past? Both Avalon.
So Avalon was actually something that I went into detail with this year that Millen can attest to. The way that the information was input into Paris originally, which would have been many years ago, was incorrect. And the actual number of jobs that, per our leaseback agreements, that the Avalon has committed to is actually over and above those commitments. And Millen can explain this probably better than I, but the issue was that the way it's inputted into Paris, there were original jobs that were supposed to be retained within a year or so of the project. And then after that initial year or so, there was a different number of jobs that Avalon was required to retain. Now, the way it was listed in Paris, those two numbers were combined when they should not have been. It really should have just been the number of the jobs to be retained over time. So when Millen reviewed this and I reviewed this and we reviewed it with Avalon's counsel this year, we all came to the conclusion that Avalon has been providing the FTE equivalents, actually more so than they're required. And it's actually an error input in Paris. And unfortunately, we've tried to change these errors in the past, but you can't go into Paris. The state won't allow you to go back into Paris and change the project information, even if you request it. So I have requested some of these updates in the past, and they've said we can't change that initial way that the project is initially inputted into Paris. But the bottom line is that Avalon fulfilled their commitments, and I know Millen can also attest to that. But it was looked at very closely this year. I picked up on the same thing you did.
Gotcha. Is there a spot you can throw a note into that? I don't see anything that says notes, but is there a line that you can follow it? Is that line on the current FTE say that? I'm just trying to see if someone's looking at it from the outside.
Yeah,
and says,
you know,
well,
they look to be before. We brought that up before, and they told us in the past that there's nowhere to note that and there's no way to change it. But I think when Margot does the inputting again for this year, Margot, if we could take a look at that to see if there's a place in the Avalon projects in Paris where we can note the actual TE job requirements, let's do so, please.
Yeah, sure.
And,
Okay.
and this Millen, I guess I have a question following up on what Joe just said. I accept that Paris is a horrible system, and it's not user friendly, and it makes lots of mistakes and lots of assumptions, and we don't need to go into that now. But on our financial statements, couldn't we add? I mean, they're ours, obviously, to be reviewed by an accountant. But on our financial statements, it seems to me we might be able to make a notation about the employment being the standards having been met.
But the issue is, Millen, I guess it's not an apparent issue in the financial statements. It's an apparent issue on Paris because Paris has project information where you list the jobs to be fulfilled by that project in the very beginning. That's not the same type of information as you're listing in the financial statements. We would only make a note in the financial statements if they didn't fulfill their commitment for whatever reason. But we make a note elsewhere in the financial statements that the FTEs have been reviewed and that they were reviewed and they do all meet their commitments overall.
Yeah, and I think Millen's saying it wouldn't hurt if we just threw it in there.
Okay.
Since we have control over that.
fine.
And basically
Yeah.
what you just said.
Okay.
You just said, it's correct that you can't correct Paris. It was put in wrongly. The state has not permitted us to make the change, but it is, they are in compliance, I guess is what the question
All right,
would be.
so you know what, Margot, I will work with you on an additional note to add to the financial statements for Avalon, okay?
Okay.
Okay, very good, thank you.
Okay, Margot, do you have any additional information?
Okay, I think that was about it. So are there any further questions?
Okay, because we're getting short on time here, and I just want to make sure we get everything in. Okay, so we're also looking at the annual goals and accomplishment report for the submission to the New York State ABO for the on or before March 30th for both the IDA and for the GICLIC. So I'm going to, and there's also the draft financial statements also that have to be submitted for the IDA and for the and for GICLIC. So I'm going to make a motion 7A through 7D. I'll ask for individual seconds on those, but we'll vote on them as a block. So 7A, resolution of the Glen Cove IDA approving the 2020 annual goals and accomplishment report for the submission. I know I'm skipping over your new business and stuff, Ann. Do you want me to go ahead and wait for that, or?
I just want to make a minor note, if I may, that the governance committee met on February 9th to
Yes,
review
please,
the draft
yeah.
agency accomplishments.
Yeah.
And that the finance committee also met on March 18th to review the draft financial statements.
Yeah, okay. I apologize. I know I'm just trying to, hurry up, but you're right. That's important to make sure that it gets said. So thank you, Ann, for that. All right. So again, I'm going to restate 7A, resolution of the Glen Cove IDA approving the 2020 annual goals and accomplishments report for the submission to New York State ABO on or before March 30th, 2021. May I have a second?
Seconded by Vincent Hartley.
Are there any questions on that one? I mean, we're basically with the annual goals, and there's no real comment on these, right? These have been sent to all the members. Yeah. Okay. 7B, resolution of the Glen Cove GICLIC. Well, it's actually the GICLIC, Glen Cove LEAC, approving the 2020 annual goals and accomplishments report for submission to New York State ABO on or before March 30th, 2021. May I have a second for that one?
Seconded by Vincent Hartley.
Okay, again, that's Vice Chairman Hartley. 7C is a resolution of the Glen Cove IDA approving the 2020 draft financial statements for submission to New York State ABO on before March 30th, 2021. May I have a second for 7C?
Seconded by Vincent Hartley.
Okay, Vice Chairman Hartley as well. And last one, 7D, resolution of the Glen Cove LEAC approving the 2020 draft financial statements for submission to New York State ABO on or before March 30th, 2021. May I have a second for that?
Seconded by Vincent Hartley.
Okay, does anyone have any question before we vote on these? Anyone have any questions on any of these four that we have? There's two for each. There's a annual goals and accomplishments, and there's a financial draft financial statements for each one. Okay. Will the clerk please poll the council on 7A through 7D? I see keep saying council. It's the board. I apologize.
Yeah, and I just want to make mention that it will be reflected in the minutes that Ian Pusparica's vote will only be applicable to the IDA tonight because he's not a GICLIC member until later
tonight. Yes.
Okay, so I'll reflect that in the minutes, but I will call the full board. So Ian Pusparica.
Aye.
Dave Jimenez.
Aye.
John Teta.
Aye.
Joe Giuino.
Aye.
Jim Capiello.
Aye.
Vice Chairman Hartley.
I vote aye.
And Chairman Tanky.
I vote aye. Okay. And is there anything I vote aye. Is there anything else you want to bring up before we break for the
Question,
evening?
did we vote on the minutes of January 12th?
Yes, we did.
Yeah, okay.
I thought we did. Did we not?
Yes, we did.
We did.
Okay, yeah.
Okay. No, just a reminder of our upcoming special meeting on April 8th and also our regularly scheduled meeting on April 13th. And we will have materials out to the board members before then.
Okay. If anyone has any questions or any comments or anything like that, you could reach Ann, myself, Camille, Vincent for any comments or any answers. So there being no further business to come before the IDA and the GICLIC boards, I make a motion to adjourn the meeting and I ask for a second.
Seconded by Vincent Hartley.
Okay, that's Vice Chairman Hartley. Will you please poll the board?
Ian Pusparica.
Yes. Aye.
Dave Jimenez.
Aye.
John Teta.
Aye.
Joe Giuino.
Aye.
Jim Capiello.
Aye.
Vice Chairman Hartley.
I vote aye.
And Chairman Tanky.
I vote aye. I just want to wish everyone either a happy Passover or a happy Easter, as those will coming up before we get to meet again. I want to welcome our new members, David Jimenez and Ian Pusparica, for joining us today, and thank you so much for giving of your time to be on this board. I think it's a very important board, and we do a lot of really good work for the city of Glen Cove. So thank you for that, and everyone enjoy the evening. I have another meeting to go to. The city council meeting starts at 7:30, so I got to get ready for that. So enjoy, everybody. Thanks again.
Thank
Take
you.
care.
Very much.
Good night, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Good night. Bye-bye.
Bye.